it was about getting things done. Not actually. We really got to turn the conversation back towards because that is Vicky's horse room. I've been in the room and it's got horse stuff everywhere. I call that your horse room, Vicky.
What would you expect? Anything different?
No, but I'm just sharing.
Yes.
Now you're showing them a view.
Yes.
All right, it is 6:30. I am going to bring this meeting to order. Janet, can I borrow the sheet? So welcome everybody, both here in person and on Zoom. With the weather outside being frightful, if I can borrow a little bit from the just past Christmas period. Thank you for being here one way or the other. Tornadoes have actually touched down in St. Pete. There's another one that was in Manatee heading to the northeast, I think. So who knows if it's over yet, but I think we're all under tornado watch till 9 o'clock. So thank you for persevering and being here. So welcome. This is our first meeting of the year. And we are now going to have the pledge to the flag. If I can find a flag, I'm not even sure if we got one. Oh, okay. Well, gee, Mark Nash has a flag lapel pin, of course. So, well, we're just going to pledge allegiance. All right. So if everybody would stand and take off their hat or whatever is appropriate. Okay. You ready? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice.
All right, we got it. Did I say something wrong? Okay. Synchronous timing is always tricky. So, all right, we got a new arrival. Hello. We just got started, just did the pledge. All right, moment of silence. Well, first of all, at a very personal level, and I'm sure Mark will agree with it, we need a moment of silence for Mary Ellis Smith's husband, who has unfortunately encountered a serious illness. And of course, we have the usual things still going on, the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine. And so we've got enough to think about in our moment of silence. And I'd like to do that right now, please. Okay. Once again, welcome everybody. And our current board is mostly here in spite of the weather. So I'm obviously Reed Morgan.
I don't hear an audio.
Excuse me?
Maybe because every time I put the I turn off the radio, I don't hear anything. I can't hear you guys. Do you hear me on the computer?
Can you hear us
I
now?
hear him.
Can you hear us? Does this help? Yes, no? Can you still hear, Vicky?
I can hear everybody. I hear them.
All right, Gifford, I'm not sure what
Where?
the issue is. Vicky says she can hear us fine. Are you
Are you right? Yeah.
Hey, Gifford, do you hear me? Being on Zoom?
can you
Yeah.
hear
Gifford.
Vicky?
Okay.
No.
Gifford, can you hear Vicky?
Hey, Gifford, do you hear me at all? No.
No, it's back down. No, I don't.
Huh.
I'm not sure what
Man,
the
I
problem
don't
is,
believe
Gifford. I'm
this.
sorry.
He doesn't usually have problems. He's
When I
always
click on
time.
that, I see it, I don't see anything.
Hey, Chris. We're trying to see if we can get Gifford on. Bear with us, please. Yeah, the Navy issues, and then Mark is our guest speaker today. He's a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the open seat on the Board of County Commissioners that's up this coming November. How many terms do you get? 2?
So you can serve 2 terms. Why don't we save that for questions? And I'm really gonna say just a few things and then I want to take questions. And I will.
Go ahead. Gifford, can you hear us now? All right. Well, we're going to proceed. Okay. All right. Mark, here's the mic.
Mike, here's the bar.
So, Reed, you want me to get in front of that space? Is that correct? All right.
Be right over here,
There.
and then you got to face the laptop.
Okay.
Like,
All right. Gifford, you make sure I'm pointed in the right direction here, buddy. I'm hearing nothing. I'm assuming I'm standing in the right spot.
I hear
okay.
you.
Okay. Very good. So, for starters, Happy New Year, everybody. The holidays were relatively uneventful. We survived them. I hope you guys did as well. We were just talking about the rain.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. I see where it says,
That's okay.
yeah, where, the one that you mute on?
Can you hear us, Gifford? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So nice to get a
It
little
says- it
rain.
says audio
January.
setting.
It's okay. No, it's okay. How many people do we have
Yes,
online,
speaker.
Reed?
Got 4.
4 people online.
Okay,
In the Senate.
okay.
All right.
Let's say yes.
Also shows no sign of cooling off. The
Oh,
US is
Zoom
also-
user in the back of my head in that shot.
No, that audio is coming up watching to the radio.
Lincoln says 4 promised to help rebuild Gaza after the war, though all would like to see steps taken to create a Palestinian.
Maybe his TV has an interference.
Okay. All right, we're gonna continue on here. Thank you all for being patient. So my name is Mark Nash. What a shock! And I'm a candidate for the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, District 6. It's a countywide seat. We were having a little pre-meeting chat, and about 20 years ago, 2004, after I left my corporate job with the Gillette Company for a very long time, helping my mom take care of my father, who had pancreatic cancer and passed in June of 2003. I was trying to figure out what was next. You know, you lose a solid cornerstone human in your life. And my parents adopted me as an infant. I was 3 weeks old when they picked me up from the adoption agency here in the Bay Area. And my parents, some of you may have known, just 2 of the most incredible humans I've ever known in my life. And losing my father was really tough. It was really tough. It was kind of a great big flashing light that this is a temporary, this is temporary. Everything that we're doing, this is all temporary. So maybe we should be the better version of ourselves going along. And I started watching public access television in Hillsborough County, which is kind of a strange little instrument, but it's a part of what democracies have. You'll find public access stations in all TV markets in our country. It's a part of the contract with the public in doing TV. And of course, they're on obscure stations. You have to literally be lost while you're channel surfing. And I came across some certain issues involving the LGBT community. You might remember 20 years ago, we had the illustrious Rhonda, no, we're good. We're good. We had the illustrious Rhonda Storms here in our community. Some of you might remember her and her nasty mouth. I'm just going to be, having gone to high school with her husband. I was kind of like taken aback. Living in Tampa, working a corporate job, and people just saying it was the beginning. I'm sure there were stupider things said before she opened her mouth up, but it was just the beginning of people just being outrageous in picking on women, picking on minorities, picking on this group, picking on that group. And I just don't feel that's the role that government can be. Now, when you decide to embrace that kind of behavior, what it does tell me is that you're not a capable public servant, because you're playing the game of dividing and distracting your public and constituents, and you're really not doing the job that you should be doing. She was serving on the board when in the 1990s, when our federal government was very flush with cash during the Clinton administration, and the Federal Transportation Department told Tampa Bay leaders that we'd like to invest in another form of transportation in your community. And Rhonda Storms was famous for saying, "No thanks, we're a rural community." So here again, we have another elected official who did not have a crystal ball or a forward-looking focus for what this community was going to need in the years to come. And of course, almost 20 years late, 30 years later, could we use a little something different with transportation here in Hillsborough County and the Bay Area as a whole? I think the answer is a resounding yes. So I started having elected officials on my TV show. I jumped into that space, had my own television show called The Buzz, and I started meeting our elected officials. In fact, and before I even got started, Reed, there you are. I really, what Trey Smith and Mariella Smith are going through, I would not wish on anybody. And it was heartbreaking on Friday when she made her public announcement of the circumstances that were causing her to step out of the race. And it just really broke my heart, because having now lost my mother 3 years ago, it's hard. It's really hard. So I think more than anything, she and her husband have been in my prayers. I'm never somebody who doesn't think a miracle can't happen. So, if the good Lord wants to intervene here, I say go for it. But my heart goes out to the Smiths in their journey ahead of them. And I'm sure Mariella, I don't know if you can hear this. I don't know if anybody connected with Mariella can hear this, but I know that there are plenty of people in this community that would step up to help them in a nanosecond. So I hope she will reach out if that were to become an opportunity for us to help her. So God bless you too. I wanted to say that first. So I started meeting our elected officials in this space called public access television. Actually, I met Mariella. She came on one of my shows when, again, another crazy idea by the Board of County Commissioners attempted to eliminate the wetlands division for our Environmental Protection Commission. And this was in the early 2000s, I believe. And it was shocking just to hear that was a good idea. It was shocking to hear people in elected office. We have water needs here. We have water needs today, but we should be preparing for our water needs 15, 25, 50, 100 years from now. And to eliminate the wetlands division for the EPC was, again, not very forward thinking, not very wise. So actually, John Dingfelder was on that episode that I did, Mariella. I may have even had Pat Kemp on that particular show. And it was people talking about how unwise it would be if we were to eliminate. And it really motivated not my show, but all of the collective voices and minds that were conveying that this was a bad idea, showed up at the county commission meetings and said, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. And I believe it was a 6-1 commission vote to turn down eliminating the Environmental Protection Commission. And this was smart. This was citizen engaged. This was what the community should be doing when they see things that shouldn't be happening on behalf of ourselves. And then when again, going back to Rhonda Storms and her anti-LGBT, anti-pride, her pride ban came up. The one commissioner on the Board of County Commissioners Kathy Castor, sorry, Kathy, was the one voice of reason in that space saying, come on, this is not a smart thing for us to be doing in our community. And then when she decided to step aside from the board and run for Congress, when Jim, I can see him, he ran for governor. I want to say Jim Gray, but that's not it. Anyway, he'll come to me. When she ran for his congressional seat, I met a guy named Kevin Beckner, and we were volunteering, knocking on doors, dropping literature in the summer in Florida, doing the really hard, gritty work that campaigns need to help get people elected. And that was when Kathy in 2006 was elected to Congress. She still sits in that seat today. And I think she's done a more than respectable job representing us. So Kathy, thank you for that. But again, I met Kevin, and we actually flew to DC when Kathy was sworn in her first term. Kathy's freshman term in Congress was in the same office that JFK used when he was sworn into Congress for the first time. So what a historical space to be in. And you get tingly now, just thinking about having been in that office building on Capitol Hill. We flew up early in the morning and flew back later in the day. And it was just a real honor to be in that space when Kathy was inaugurated. So I, kept meeting Democrats, kept working on campaigns, again, helped get Kevin Beckner elected. I was his field director for most of his campaign and his co-campaign manager at the end. I actually did something I think you couldn't probably do today. In order to win a Democratic primary, you didn't have to have 50% plus one, you just had to have the most votes. So I even convinced my, sadly, but I do have non-Democratic friends to become Democrats, to change their registration. Okay, this is 2008, so 16 years ago, 16. I convinced my Republican friends and family to change their registration so they could vote for Kevin. Is that something we would be able to do 16 years later? I think people that you'd start a war in your own houses if you tried to do that, right? But I believed in Kevin, not because he happened to be LGBT, but he happened to be a certified financial planner. He was a smart guy. He knew how to manage money. We had a $4 billion county budget at the time. And, that's a lot of peanuts. And don't you want smart people? And by the way, the person sitting in the seat that he ran for was the, do I say notorious Brian Blair, the Bumblebee, the wrestler, right? We're getting good results out of that person space, right? And Brian, listen, no offense, buddy, but you needed to go, and we worked our tails off, and we won a historic election. Also the same election cycle that Barack Obama not only won the presidency, but he won Florida and he won Hillsborough County, and he was the black guy. That really happened. So in fact, Kevin's victory party was in Ybor that evening. And I'm sure you all remember 2008, how hopeful we all were that we were turning a corner to doing better, And so, fast forward to now, I grew up here. This is my father's family came to Hillsborough County in the 1850s. My great uncle owned the land where our airport sits. It was called Drew Field until 1950. John Higley Drew and three other men brought their property together to create the city of West Tampa from 1895 to 1925. For 30 years, that was a separate city from the city of Tampa. And John Higley's Drew's property was vast. In fact, the 4 streets north of Columbus Avenue, Kathleen, Aileen, Cordelia, and Ivy are his 4 sisters, my 4 great aunts. He also owned a construction company and built every single cigar factory in West Tampa. So as my cousin and I were, researching our family, we were creeping around cemeteries in what is now Pinellas County. Pinellas County was Hillsborough County until 1911. So my family, that space was Hillsborough County for 50 plus years. And in digging and learning all the connections of my family over the years, I kind of felt a responsibility to not only get involved, but to run for public office. So I'm your Democrat running for the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. I've spent my life in the corporate world until the last 15 years. I've been working in this community to help get Democrats elected. Kevin assigned me his chief of staff his first 2 years when he was in office. It was an incredible, eye-opening experience seeing the county from the inside. If you remember that scene in The Wizard of Oz when they walked in and the big guys on the wall, and the second time they came in, the dog pulled the screen away, and you got a chance to see how things really. Yeah. So I got to see, and then also finding out that I had literally dozens of either high school or Florida State friends. I'm a FSU graduate that worked for Hillsborough County government. So Kevin had a great advantage when he got into office because I had all these people that I had known throughout my life that worked for Hillsborough County, the assistant county attorney. Yeah, that's gonna have a pre-senior moment here right in front of you guys. Anyway, she and I went to Brandon High School together, and her husband, we've just known their family for a very long time. So I am really sorry about what has taken place here with the change of the dynamics of this race, but this is a race that we cannot afford to lose as Democrats, number one. But we need someone who's going to get in office and is going to work on the things that really matter. And I think the top of the food chain for what really matters, stop me if I'm wrong and jump in, but transportation is the critical component of how we take a really great community and make it exceptional. And I know we've got people that aren't from here, that have lived elsewhere and understand that public transportation is a necessary requirement component of a healthy community. And it's not a Democratic public transportation. It's not Republican public transportation. It is public transportation that works for everybody. That's really number one. And quite frankly, I think you could spend the next 20, 30 years in office, one person making that their single issue. But I also am concerned about the evolution of Hillsborough County. We are 1,200 square miles, and we only have 3 municipalities, only 3 cities in our county. A third of Hillsborough County is under the rule of local government, municipal government, Tampa, Plant City, and Temple Terrace. So you have 2/3 to 3/4 of Hillsborough County that is in unincorporated Hillsborough. And yet we have, the way the current board is made up, we have 7 county commissioners, 6 of whom live west of I-75, making decisions for parts of our community that are not seen on a day in and day out basis. So what I'd like to see happen is I would like to see us go to 9 board seats on this board, but keep the same dynamic where it would be 5 single member and 4 countywide so that every single resident votes for a majority of the board. That's a unique thing within Hillsborough County that should not be messed with. The current commissioner out here wants to take it to 9 single member districts. He wants to reduce your voting power on this board from 4 seats to 1. And I don't think reducing the voting power of the public in this county by 75% is wise for democracy. So I like the idea of because when the charter was created that allowed the way the county exists today was in the mid 1980s, when we had just a little over 680,000 residents here. We have 1 million more people here today. And when you have 6 of the 7 board members that live west of I-75, not seeing the growth. I mean, have you been down to Waimama lately? Have you been down to Balm? Have you been down to Sun City Center? And it is a horrible environment for anything. It's a horrible environment for living. And that is a big concern. So transit, how we grow, and I think we should just have conversation. I'm not decreeing that we create new cities, but communities should be able to organize, understand the dynamics, and let them decide their own future. Do the people in Waimama want 7 county commissioners 30 miles away to be calling the shots about how their community evolves? Oh, and by the way, not doing anything to the roads and infrastructure before you drop tens of thousands of homes in that space? My answer, I think all of us would agree, would be no. It's a very unwise decision. Yeah, that was Reed Morgan with the no comment in the back. So everybody here is a recognizable face except for this gentleman here. And, I have worked my tail off in this community, helping Democrats. I chaired the resurrection of the Kennedy King Dinner, which happened in 2015 at Tampa Palms. I chaired that event. We couldn't squeeze another human into that room. I've worked hand in hand with Mark Nash to raise the necessary financial resources to get Democrats elected. Now, the scary little dynamic here, you guys, and this is why 2024 it should be really concerning to all of us, certainly Democrats. We had a 75,000 voter advantage, Democrats over Republicans in Hillsborough County 3 years ago. As of today, that advantage is 14,000. It has gone from 75 to 14,000, which is why what happened 2 years ago happened when we had incumbent countywide commissioners, Smith and Overman, were defeated because we've lost that particular edge, which, by the way, that's an important component of getting our candidates elected into office, is that we have to have more Democrats registered to vote. Turnout certainly has got to happen, but they mirror each other. If you have more registered voters, that should reflect in what happens in election results. And we're losing that advantage in leaps and bounds, and that should concern all of us. I need your help. So there's a couple things that can happen. If you have a checkbook today, please consider writing a check to my campaign. Mark Nash Campaign is how that check should be written out. I know you want to get in there, Susan. I know you're a big check writer. $1,000 is the most you could write for me today. So just understand that if you need help with decimal placement, I will be happy to offer that assistance.
Website.
So I'm going to go completely. I'm redoing the website, redoing all of those internals on February 1st. That should go live. So when Friday happened, it was my phone blew up. I'm at the car dealership. I'm having my car serviced, and all of a sudden it was like, I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? Is the world ending? And someone is just now telling me this. It's when I learned everybody. I even got contact. I had a friend of mine in Mexico that texted me and said, I'm getting her emails, and I just wanted you to know this has just happened. And I'm no. So I think the obvious thing I want to convey here is that I've been engaged in this process from a we-focused position rather than a me-focused position, you guys. I've tried to help candidates. I've tried to help the party. I've gotten involved in community organizations, trying to lift up people. This is the logical next step for me. Whether we have a majority on the Board of County Commissioners or not, I will continue to fight in a space where we need smart things to happen, regardless of your political stripes. And that's who I am. That's what you will get when you elect me as your next county commissioner. I'm accessible and available. How many events have I hosted at my house for candidates, Janet? How many times? Yeah. I mean, I'm really the guy. I'm all in as a Democrat, and I've done the hard work to try to get. I mean, I've raised, I think I did some math the other day. It's over $30,000 for candidates in the last 6 years, maybe. So I really want to see us be better. I'd like to see Democrats lead the way, and I'd like to be a part of that leadership that help makes things happen. So I appreciate your time. I really would like to take some questions, Reed, if that's okay. So thank you, guys. Thank you for everything. Yes, ma'am. I can do that. No.
You talk about prioritizing transportation, public transportation. What modes of public transportation would you push for?
So yes is the answer to that. So, I look back in the 1940s, Hillsborough County, really mostly within the city of Tampa, we had over 60 miles of trolley line connecting Seminole Heights, Tampa Heights, downtown, Ybor City, Ballast Point, which is south of Gandy, again, West Tampa, which is certainly near and dear to my heart because of my family's connections to that space. And in the 1940s, the car companies went around to cities that would listen, and they said, you don't need this anymore. It's going to be all about the car. They did a divide and conquer. And it was General Motors that was assigned with the Tampa assignment, and our local leaders, not thinking past the nose on their faces, said, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea." So in the 1940s, we started to get rid of our rail, and now we're putting it in for over, I think it's over $1 billion a mile. You know, what would this community be today had we kept that rail? By the way, can we think of any other communities in our country or across the globe that have this particular brand of transportation, and how unique and interesting and tourist driven and core growth spaces those cities are today? I mean, I think of San Francisco. You know, that's the first thing that crosses my mind. Sure. And of course, that's subway. So we're not going to be able to drop 600 miles of rail all at once. And by the way, it's not just connecting Hillsborough County within its own borders. Our strength as a region is something that we've got to really play off of. And that strength is the 3-city headed monster that is Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater. If we connected the Bay Area with a light rail, with a subway product, and then branched it out from there in the common sense corridors, it would be a game changer. You couldn't stop what happens in this community, but Hillsborough County government only handles what happens in Hillsborough County. I would be an advocate for connecting with local, state, and federal partners to make sure we were bringing transit dollars in here to take those next steps, because I think that's what takes us to the next level. And that's really what I see as an important process for transit and what we become. But the logical line for rail to go first is from the airport to downtown Tampa. Well, actually, let me restate that. The logical thing to do is to come up with a plan for transportation. Where would it go? Where would we drop it? Where would it make sense? But I think there's hands down, airport to downtown is the logical choice, but it should blow up from there. Now you look at communities in our country that have added rail lately. Norfolk, Virginia. Those are not bastions of breakout growth, but they did that to keep their military contracts, because they needed to be able to move military employees more efficiently in their community. St. Louis, I've got a friend of mine who works for Morgan Chase here, and he's from Missouri. And he goes, my wife and I, we went to St. Louis, help me out with the baseball team. Cardinals. Yeah. He said, we went in for a Cardinal. That's right. Cardinals. And he's like, we flew in, we got on the train, we went to downtown, went to the stadium. He goes, why don't we have that here? And I said, because we don't have bright people in public office. That's really it. I'm not trying to be cruel here, but that's the bottom line. So, by the way, when we turned down those federal dollars in '96 and our illustrious county commissioner said, no, thanks, we're a rural community, did those dollars disappear? No, they didn't. They went to Charlotte, North Carolina, and they went to Phoenix, Arizona. And now 30 years later, those communities have trains, subway, light rail, and their communities are exploding. I was just in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago. It was really astonishing to see how that community has changed in the short window of time. Yeah, I went to the Florida State Louisville Conference Football Championship game. It was really great time. Charlotte has really done some great things for itself, but they have transportation that 21st century cities need, and good for them for seeing that and getting it done. But we need people in local office here that have the guts to drive that through, literally make it happen. So transportation, rail, but I like the ferry product, but I think we've got to start with, when you build a house, don't you put the frame in first? Don't you put the skeleton of what it is you want to build first? We haven't done that. We need roadways. When you're in South County, the fact that we don't have more east and west corridors, the fact that we build overpasses over I-75 that don't have access and egress points on and off the interstate. Who thought that was a good idea? I look at 19th Street where the library is down there. You go over the interstate, but there's no getting on and getting off. Could that have alleviated some of the pressures on Big Ben, on Gibsonton Drive, on Sun City Center Boulevard? I don't really understand why that hasn't happened. So it's all of it. When you ask me the question, what would yes is the answer, all of it. But as it pertains to rail and a 21st century transportation product, downtown to the airport is really is the most important corridor. That's going to give us our greatest success. And then the question is, how do you pay for it? Well, we had the process in place that was going to pay for transportation. And the illustrious county commissioner, I'm going to call him out, Stacy White, had the audacity to sue the body that he represented for an illegal process for gaining public dollars to pay for transportation. Who does that? Oh, and by the way, say again, you threw him out of here? Yeah. Well, so my comment is, he should be forced to, whenever I made a mess, my mother would, force me to like stay in it for a while. Well, he made a mess, but he didn't stick around. He moved to Vermont. So he's not even here to experience the decision-making that I think was really just an evil thing. And he was doing it just to say, hey, look at me. Remember, I said, you're either we focused or me focused. And when he decided to do that, it was about being me focused and hey, look at me. And by the way, what had he ever done when he was in office in the 8 years he was in office? I could fill a Post-it note with everything that he did while he was a county commissioner. So we've got to get local people in office that see the future of this community and work towards helping it evolve towards that. Yes, Chris.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of public transportation, don't get me wrong. But you must understand, if it's not subsidized, it doesn't work. And Peter Trezian, he's got a question. Why the airport?
So a couple of reasons why the airport, while we're having this conversation about where to put a baseball stadium, and I'm a huge sports guy. I love the Rays, love the Bucks, love the Lightning. I'm a home team guy. And I really thought by putting the rail line from the airport to downtown, and by the way, the rail has to be elevated. Nothing can be on the road. We already have enough trouble with bicycling, with motorbikes. Add another distraction at road level. And we're going to really, and by the way, where this product, it's going from Fort Lauderdale up to, what's that called? Brightline, yes. So I don't know if you are aware, but that's become the choice of people with mental health issues in taking their own lives. People are by the hundreds, and it's not something that's talked about a lot. So when you have a rail line at ground level, it creates a lot of problems, whether it's just public safety in general or creating an opportunity for people who are having mental health issues. So I envision, and I spoke to Mayor Castor about this when she got elected, and I said, Jane, you can completely cement your legacy as a mayor if you come up with a brilliant idea for how to get a Ray Stadium built. And oh, by the way, we do pretty good with 80,000 people going to Bucks games on Sundays. I don't know how the Lightning fans do it because congestion in downtown Tampa is so ugly. What if we had a loop in downtown Tampa connected to a rail line where people could ditch their cars and take the train in to go see the Lightning play? And by the way, we've got the convention center there. So the answer to the question why that route is a couple of fold. Where we know rail lines have gone, they've really turned up where there are nodes stops on. It has brought not millions, but billions of dollars of infrastructure growth into those spaces. The Sunrail product, which was on a CSX line that they have in Central Florida from Point Siena up to Sanford, everywhere there's a node on that line, there's over $1 billion of development. So that line, I believe, should go down Columbus, and it should be elevated. And if you can visualize that Columbus corridor from International Mall, it's Boy Scout, then it becomes Columbus, and it gets in some neighborhoods that really need a kick, that really need some investment, economic investment, and that would help do that. So, yes, sir.
There's some simple things, like
It's on.
like what about this light at Palm River and Falkenberg? How many more people have to have accidents, and how many more old people do I have to come stop the traffic for so they don't have to run the red light?
So that's a part of the scenario of what Hillsborough County did was their roadways and infrastructure evolved not by smart planning, but by reacting to what was needed at that immediate moment. I grew up with Sherry Falkenberg, and that road is actually named by her father. And yeah, no, that light is there used to be a skating rink on Palm River when I was a kid, and we used to come in. That's when nothing existed out here. So yeah, no, it's just smart infrastructure. We just haven't done that. And there are a lot of mistakes that need to be corrected. That would obviously be one of them, according to what you experienced living, working in this space, living. Oh, okay, sure. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, I appreciate that. We'll be talking a little bit more here when I wrap things up. But there was a question up here, Chris, did you say? Yeah, so good question. And who asked that question, Chris? Vicky. Hey, Vicky, great question. So that money still sits in limbo. The county, the state government has captured those dollars, and I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 560, nearly $600 million. By the way,
Yep.
are there not transit needs today that money could go towards? But it's tied up in the BS that's going on in Tallahassee in capturing these dollars. And the hope was, and this is laughable, that they were going to return that money to the people that gave that money. Well, 30% of those dollars came from people out of state. The answer is it would be impossible to do that. But that is another example of not very wise people being involved in a governmental space where they've ground it to a halt. And now how many years this money is just sitting there idly? I'd hope it's in an interest-bearing place where it could be making money. $560 million to $600 million can make a lot of money over a period of time. But for that money to be sitting on the sideline while we have intersection issues in our county, why we have a lack of roadways in our county, and that money is just sitting there and not. And by the way, if you were to dollarize the amount of money that it would take to get this county today, January 9th, 1924, just up to what our roadway needs are, that's 13 to 15 billion dollars today. Yeah, correct.
What are your thoughts on the developing of Hillsborough, the developers who are, it seems like they're overdeveloping with no thought to the roads?
So that's
any infrastructure.
Yep. That's a complicated question. The scenario, the way I see this, it is a build first, fix everything else later. Okay. My mother would call that the cart before the horse mentality. And the problem is that there are projects that have been approved that are so far out. And the one thing that I always tried to, Kevin and I was a policymaker in Kevin's office, and I fought against him about things that I thought were smart. I mean, it was his office. I was honored to work for him. And we never had any conflict, but we did engage and we did butt heads. And I thought that projects that had been approved, by the way, there could be a project that was approved in the 1960s that is still on the books, that is approved at that level of knowing what curbs, drainage, water, etc. is needed. And if those projects were to go forward and get built, who would cover the cost of getting it up to snuff to what current standards are? That would be all of us in this room, our taxpayer. That's why we never get caught up on infrastructure, because infrastructure. So the comment was made, Chris, about transit and the cost. And we never cover the cost. Roads, bridges, none of that cost is ever covered anyway.
I want to make sure that my point was not that you could do it, but that you have to make sure it's affordable.
Correct.
And the only way to do that is to do it with subsidies.
Yeah, we're going to have to use taxpayer dollars to help fix our infrastructure. That's just all there is to it. And by the way, look at where we are today and how that strategy of not being bolder with what we need has gotten us into the condition that we're in today. Correct, correct, correct. So there was another point I wanted to make. Maybe it'll pop back in my head.
I think it's impact fees. You don't really think. Have to pay that impact fee. Roads are built, and then for a while, they're being.
They were so far ahead. They were, yeah, no question. So, interesting little side note, when the Reedy Creek Corporation was established prior to Disney even showing up in Central Florida, my mom's sister, my great aunt, Betty Duda, was on that board and was on that board for a number of years. And we did not see eye to eye politically, but she understood what it meant by being ahead of your infrastructure needs, because you can either be, proactive or you can be reactive. And you can look at the Orlando area, which I think it leans towards the proactive side. And then you could look at other parts of our state, come down I-4, and I think it can be reactive. Sorry? Well, I think there are a multitude of ways of looking at it. Listen, I will tell you, I'm neither a fiscal conservative or fiscally liberal, but I believe you get what you pay for, and you get what you don't prepare for. And we need to invest in ourselves. Okay. And by the way, where we are with needing rail and everything, none of us are going to be here when that officially kicks in. But we shouldn't kick that can down the road and not get it started today. It just really shouldn't happen. So sales tax needs to be revisited. If not, you know what the county budget is today? Remember I said Commissioner Beckner gets in. He's in the fiscal year October through September 08 through 9. And that was the year before the mortgage crisis really crushed home prices, really affect intake of taxpayer dollars of home insurance, home property taxes. And the budget went from 4.1 billion to 3.1 billion, a quarter, 25% loss. And we had to run county government in that next budget year with a quarter less dollars, and we were able to get it done. It was painful. Thousands of county jobs that were lost, a lot of projects set aside. But today, 15, 16 years later, what's the county budget? Anybody know? County budget. What's the county budget? It's over $9 billion. So if we could run Hillsborough County 16 years ago on a $4 or $3 billion budget, why can't we find the dollars in a $9 billion budget to at least be a little bit better about those dollars going towards the things that we really need? I'm not saying there's waste in county government. I'm not saying there's inappropriate funding of things that are not visible to all of us, but there is money there. You would think we could reapportion some of those dollars to go towards transportation. Reed.
Be specific. Where would you take it from that it's going now to put it to where you said you wanted to go? So there's 9 billion. How much would you take?
So it'd be 9 billion. Yeah, no, let me tell you something. Going through the budget process with the county, and I did that twice when I was with Kevin, is as painstaking, hair pulling, cloak and dagger experience as you could ever imagine. My answer to you would be, where are those dollars allocated now? How have those various buckets of money trended down or up, depending on what the needs are of our county? And where can we extrapolate dollars here, dollars there? I don't. I really don't. You have to really be. So the county commission is responsible for running the county. Well, kind of. It's the county administrator that's responsible for running county government. Okay. The county commission has 3 employees in that building downtown: the county administrator, county attorney, and the county internal performance auditor. So the only thing the county commission can affect with regards to personnel are those 3 positions. So obviously the big dog in that space is the county administrator, and it's a she now, and she is responsible for the running of the county, and the county commissioners are responsible for building consensuses for how dollars are spent to do the things that county government must do. You know, the budgets for our sheriff's department, public defender, supervisor of elections, those actually come from Hillsborough County government. So it is a big, big, big job. And each commissioner, and I know because I did this with Commissioner Beckner, sorry? Yeah. Oh, I'm still close to he and his husband today. I will tell him he's a good guy. It was his other half, Gil, who texted me from Mexico. I'll make that real. He said, "Did you see this?" And I was, well, the thing is what happened was Kevin ran as a capable legislator. He ran as somebody who was reasonable, who was capable, who had a view, who had who had a plan, who had an idea. And I think at that point in time, we weren't doing the Jerry Springer show as much then as we are today. And people looked at him from a capable or capability perspective rather than a who you are, Democrat, what you are, et cetera. Well, all of that is, all of that is crazy. Janet, question?
Yeah. Well, I want to change the subject a little, but I will say that I helped work on the library budget at the time. So every agency had to come up with cuts down to library pages. So
This at the time when the budget went down.
yeah.
Oh,
So it's so it's every little nitpicky thing in the whole county. So don't call them on it right now. But can I compliment you in another way? Whenever I have been in a room and they referred to something we needed to know about the county, they ask you. I just wanted to say, whether it was Donna or Mariella or something, they said, "Mark, what is this?" And they'd refer to you. And my question is, where did the Democrats?
There we go.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, you guys. So, and then, just knowing things, you just got to ask questions. When I moved back to Florida in 1997, I was the national accounts manager for the blade and razor business for Gillette, calling on public supermarkets. So I inherited a $16 million business that in 4 years I turned into a $30 million business. That did not happen by mistake. I am somebody who asks questions, verifies, trust, but verify. That's incredibly important. I also would not be able to be, God willing, I get elected in the fall. I would ask you all, of course, most of you have my cell phone number. If there's something that you want to see done, we're all partners in this. There really shouldn't be this, we should not hold our elected officials in some lofty positions, because they really should be just regular people like you and me. And it's one thing to get elected into office, but when you've not been able to accomplish anything in that space, what a wasted opportunity. So I don't know about that, but I will tell you something. Not only would that, I would look at changing that if that were the case. But one thing we did with Kevin Beckner that I was super proud of is that once a month we had a community engagement in a public library in Hillsborough County. Every single month we got press releases out. The public knew where we were going to be, whether Bloomingdale or South County or up in the Northwest Odessa Keystone area. Paul Davis Library, I believe, is what that is. Kevin realized that he was representing the public, and being accessible and engaged with the people that he was representing was really important to him. And I was really tickled that we were able to do that. And he did that for the entire 8 years that he was a county commissioner. And I kind of think that our two county commissioners that did not get successfully reelected 2 years ago, they did not build their brand by getting out into the community and engaging with the public. And it was the only way Kevin was successful is that happened. He won in a landslide when he was reelected in 2012. So there is no way I would want to be known as a public servant. That's the only way I could do this job effectively. Chris.
Peter had said a while back when we were talking about the money for there that he thought they were trying to give it back to the people who use the Selman. Do you know anything about that?
So the Selman Expressway, for those old timers like myself, it was called the Crosstown back in the day. And by the way, thank you for leading to that little nugget. I want to share a little side note. The same conversation happened when we were going to build the Crosstown. People didn't want it. In fact, there was an article that Daniel Ruth did where he laid on it and did imaginary snow angels in the middle of the day because nobody was on that road. Okay. So maybe it was built ahead of its time. It was built because the belief was most of the employees at MacDill lived in East Hillsborough, Valrico, Brandon, Gibsonton. And by putting that roadway in that gave them a little less stress trying to get to work was going to help keep that military element in our economy here. I think it had to have been successful because MacDill is still here. But imagine, close your eyes. There's no Crosstown or Leroy Selman Expressway today. What would it be like getting around this community right now? And by the way, the fact that it didn't get built 10 more miles to the west and 10 more miles to the east. So my comment about the Selman is that's a unique financial entity. It is actually falls under the Expressway Authority for the Hillsborough County Expressway Authority. It is separately funded, is separately managed. The energy that goes into managing that space is done by that Expressway Authority. It has nothing to do with Hillsborough County government, has nothing to do with state government. It is its own animal. And by the way, the extension, so I find that a little hard to believe. I've actually have met with the Expressway Authority before they put that extended elevated section that connects to, you can get on I-75, get on the Selman Expressway and not hit a traffic light until you get to St. Petersburg. What a novel idea, right? Any other questions? I appreciate read the time. Yeah.
Your other side, nomination race, the red side. Can you give us a 60-second what's going on there? I don't know.
Yeah. So Friday was really a game changer on so many different levels in this race. I don't ever get into anything whimsically. I got in this race because I want to serve this county. I want it to be a better place for all of us. Okay. But with Friday's revelation, it is kind of shaken the tree considerably about where are we going from here, because it is January. Let me give you some timetables. June, usually the third week in June, is qualifying week, because you can be a candidate today all the way to the beginning of June. But if you don't qualify for the ballot, you don't make the ballot. You won't be, you couldn't be elected. So either pay the fee or you collect petitions, and petitions is certainly super hard these days. You can't even register people to vote anymore. So it's kind of a slap in the face. The primary would be in August and the general election would be in November. So, I think there could probably be another person, perhaps more than one, that try to jump into this race. Obviously, so no, even on the blue side, Reed, I think. So there are two Republicans that are currently in this race. Davidson is the last name. He's run for Tampa City Council before. He lives up in the New Tampa area. And then interesting. So my Morgan Stanley guy lives in Carrollwood, and he and I kibitz a lot on politics when we meet on occasion. And he's gotten really kind of fascinated with local politics. I've tried to explain to him how local politics is really so much more important than all this other craziness that we see at the state and national level. So he got invited, someone in his office invited him to a campaign event for someone running for school board. And he ended up meeting this lady's campaign guy. And Dave, got his card. And the next time Dave and I meet, he's like, oh, I need you to call this guy. He seemed really neat. And that's the other guy. He's also representing this other guy running. It's a name I'm not familiar with, but first time candidate. So there are two Republicans that have filed to run. They have not qualified.
Who's back in anybody?
Well, that's interesting. So thank you for asking that question, because that's going to be a question I'm going to kind of have to need to do a little focus on. Yeah. Thank you. Well, so there's a good answer. So there's a good answer to that idea.
Are you hitting that button?
I try not to.
Don't hit it.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry, you guys. Anybody who's not here that's on Zoom have a last minute question or comment they'd like to slide in.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all for attending the meeting and for being here in the modern way that we attend meetings. Really appreciate that, and Happy New Year to you all.
Happy New Year, Mark.
Yeah, and thank you all for your time, you guys. I'm hopeful you're going to see me as the Tasmanian devil out there working my tail off. Please, questions, comments, suggestions. You got most of you have the 1-800-MARK number. So don't hesitate to give me a jingle. And if you don't have my number, let's fix that before I leave today. Reed, thank you very much.
Just one last thing, Mark, when you get your website set up February 1st, send an email to me and or Chris Radulich will get it up.
All right, try it now.
All right.
Yeah, so you can speak.
All right. Can you hear me, Vicky? Just nod your head.
Thank you, Reed. I watched you hit the button. Thank you.
No, the battery's dead.
Oh, okay.
Dead. Battery's dead.
Okay.
All right. So
Good.
we're opening.
Get to business.
That's all right. This is internal business. We've got two issues. First is we need to have our members pay their dues. Officially, it's by January 15th. We're opening the floor here tonight for any additional nominations for anybody else or self-nominations for the open positions for the March election for vice president and treasurer. Our incumbent, which is Chris and Walt Seeley, are willing to run for re-election, but we are, by our bylaws, have to open it up, and we're encouraging anybody, if you want to run for Pete's sake, you feel free to do so. So if there is anybody here in person or on Zoom that wants to nominate someone or themselves, please speak up now, and you can put your arm up to run for either vice president or treasurer, as long as very soon you have paid your dues for 2024.
They have till February, Reed.
I understand, but we're opening up now. And
Right. Open it up now and then they can come back February.
and obviously most
Hang
of the
on,
members
hang on.
are not.
Okay.
That's good.
All right. Can you hear me now, Vicky? We got new batteries in the mic.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Good, thank you. My hand's nowhere near the button. All right, so we will send out an email tomorrow to the membership asking if they wish to nominate someone, colleague themselves, for vice president or treasurer. They have until our February meeting. Okay, but we're opening the process tonight for anybody that's in person or on Zoom if they wish to so nominate anyone. Okay. Second thing I said, please pay your dues as soon as possible. You cannot vote in March if you're not a paid up member. All right. So those were the two important things that we needed to get to. Now we'll go back and cover the treasurer's report with Walt Seeley and then the secretary report with Janet Mullen. I'm going to pass the mic over now that the batteries are working.
Okay, our balance today is $2,244.27. And as Reed said, we could do with dues money if anyone hasn't paid. I think you needed to add too that in order to vote, you have to be a dues paying member. Am I correct?
I did say that.
You did say
I
that.
did say that. Yes, I did. So yes, and that's why it's important to pay your dues so you can vote. And obviously it's a busy year this year. We got a lot of things that we want to get done, and I'd like to keep our membership where it was for last year, and we can improve it so much the better. Okay, now I'm going to give the microphone to Janet for her very usually quick secretary report.
The minutes were approved at the board meeting.
All right, thank you. That helps make up a little bit. Mark said he's going to take a few minutes. I think he pushed a few minutes, but no complaints, but that wasn't a few minutes. All right. All right. We got treasurer's report, secretary's report. I covered the dues. We've opened the nominations, and that will stay open until February. That's really it, unless there's anything else. Oh, Regina Richter wants the mic for a couple of minutes. She does want to give us an update on the abortion petition, which I think is good news.
I want to thank everybody who helped us get the petition signed. We met our goals for the numbers of petitions that needed to be signed and the congressional percentages that needed to be met. Now it's going to the Supreme Court in Florida because there's been a challenge about the wording by the Attorney General. And we all know where she came from and who she replaced. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I hear you.
So we can keep fingers crossed. We did our part. We did what we can do, and now we can hope that that the will of the people prevails, and we at least get this women's reproductive rights on the ballot. Whether it gets voted up or down will be up to the people of Florida, but nobody can have their voice heard if it doesn't get on the ballot. So that's the first thing. The second thing is following what Mark was saying about the devastating drop in registered Democrats. We are the Hillsborough County Democratic Organization is going to be focusing on voter registration. And so what I'm going to do is send around a request for everybody. I mean, you guys would not be here if you didn't care about what was happening in this state with the politics. If everybody gave me some ideas to what you would be willing to do by filling out that volunteer form so that I can contact you as we put together the next step of our strategy, that would be enormously helpful. I've highlighted the things that we're targeting first. Voter registration is the priority for right now. We don't have candidates to back yet. Our policy in Hillsborough County in the state of Florida is to not back a candidate until after primaries. So we can't be accused of keeping our thumb on the weighing scale. Thank you. So we wait until after primaries to actually focus on our slate. In the meantime, we're going all out to get registered Democrats. So everything that we're going to be doing is going to be involving that. Every bit of help that we can get from everyone in the room will be enormously helpful. And I know that Vicky is always in line to do whatever needs to be done. And everybody just tell me when they're available and what they're willing to do, and we'll plug you in. So thank you in advance, and let's just keep the momentum going.
Hey, Radina, can you hear me?
I can.
Go ahead.
I can.
Okay. This is just a comment of what I've been reading about dear Ashley Moody.
Yeah.
Another one deeply rooted in Hillsborough County and the Plant City area. Her comment is that she's saying voters are not smart enough to understand that little piece of language.
Yeah. Well,
It's like
that's the trick that they use whenever the will of the people is going to be violated, that the wording is just not clear enough and people won't understand what they're being asked to vote on. So I absolutely believe that they'll pull that stunt again. And again, we've done what we can do, and then it may have to go to be challenged, but it may not, we may be devastated and not seeing it on the ballot, but we are absolutely demonstrating that the will of the people in this state is to get it on the ballot. We collected over 900,000 signatures on petitions.
Yep.
That says a lot.
Yep.
Thank you, Radita. All right, that's really all we have for tonight, unless, okay, Chris Radulich needs the mic.
Yeah, I just want to thank our callers. We have Gwen Stefanaski, Stavaski. Okay, Stavansky. Mary Shepherd, Marlene Gigliano, Inez Hertz, Angela Lewis, and Vicky Laudry, who are making the phone calls to try and get people out. I got a couple of them right.
You're
taking
good,
time
Chris. You're
out to
good.
make
You're
the
good.
calls. Thanks.
Thank you all, people. It's going to be one hell of a year. Take care. Good night. Goodbye.
Good night. I make an amendment. We close.
Yep, we close.
I second that.
Where are you, Vicky?
Home. That's her home. She's in her horse room.
She's at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh.